Hi, this is Lisa with Miracle of Deliverance, and this is session 12 in the marriage series. I made this for ministers who are ministering to couples, and what I like to do is separate the husband and wife typically. Somebody's going to minister to the wife, someone's going to minister to the husband and get them free, get them healed, get all their wounds fixed through Jesus, and then after that, it's a lot easier to work on healing a marriage. In this session, I want to talk to you about submitting unmet expectations or false expectations to God. A lot of times we have expectations and we don't even realize it. There's a few reasons for that. I'm going to cover those pretty quickly, or at least some of them that I believe exist. And one is no one's fault except for you come from two different cultures. I like to tell the story about how my husband and I got married, and his mother always changed the light bulbs. My father always changed the light bulbs. And when the light bulbs started going out, we started waiting for the other one to fix it. You would not believe the fight that ensued because I insisted he was lazy because he wouldn't change it, and he insisted that I was lazy. What happened? From the culture you come from, things are normal. Now, I love this little story of a couple that we're doing premarital counseling with. I gave them that light bulb example, and then I said, there are all kinds of things we're going to cover before you get married. There's expectations you have that you don't know you have yet. And I just thought of a little example. I was like, for example, if a mouse gets in your house, who takes it out? And she looked over at him and he's like, well, I guess I would. And she explained, she said, well, I just don't like to see an animal suffer. And I don't want to be the one to throw the mouse into the bucket of water. And he said, do what? She said, I just don't want to be the one to throw the mouse into the bucket of water. And he was like, what are you talking about? And so she talked about the trap, and if it didn't kill it, there was basically a mercy killing. And his picture when she said that was she was taking this little mouse and ducking it under. And she was thinking sticky trap. He was thinking of the mechanical old wooden traps. And they actually left my office discussing in detail the trappings of rodent removal out of the house. And I said, listen, guys, it was very entertaining. But you both have simple things like this that doesn't seem like they're going to be big. But let me tell you, when you go into a marriage, there are expectations you have because it's the only thing you know. Well, what happens when we get this marriage together and then those things start coming out? The first thing to look for isn't a demon, isn't that they've done something wrong, is check for cultural expectations. Well, after that, if there's no cultural expectation, you may want to check to see if there's just a false expectation. Maybe a husband who expects the wife to come hand her check over to him without question, or the woman who expects a husband to do that, or maybe they expect to have the other one take their dishes and put in the dishwasher. I mean, it's simple things like that, but it's the little foxes that spoil the vine. And if there's no open communication, it's going to be difficult for them to tell their expectations. One of the things we like to do is before marriage is have people talk about expectations. What do you expect? Who do you expect to take care of the bills? Who do you expect to do the majority of the discipline, or do you both do that with children? Where do you expect to go to church? How often do you expect to go to church? I've seen people get married and they didn't even talk about it. And the expectation was they would go to church every service. But there was the one spouse that was like, I'm Sunday morning, I'm good to go. I don't really want to do that. So those are important things to, you need to discover if it's a false expectation or if it's just an uncommunicated expectation. If it's a false expectation, may have to work through that because it may need some give and take, or the one spouse may need to learn how to communicate the expectation. Concerning not communicating expectations, If a man is used to watching movies where the woman jumps out with a teddy on every night and can't wait to have intimacy, if he has that expectation, he's going to hurt his wife. If the wife has that expectation that every time the husband initiates, that could be an issue. So we need to open up some communication to express it. Now, if the person has rejection or abandonment issues, they may not feel comfortable expressing their expectations. So there may need to be some healing that takes place before that. Another kind would be expectations that are just unmet. They're communicated. They're aware of it. Let's say you have a man or a woman that is selfish. The expectation is that they put their clothes in the laundry basket instead of on the floor, or that they have a job, or that they don't talk about their sex life to their buddies or girlfriends or whatever it is. When that comes in, then one of them, hopefully, one could be a goober and doesn't care about the expectations, at which point you're going to have a difficult time with getting the marriage together. It's going to be important for the other one that feels like their expectations are not being met to cast their cares upon the Lord. First of all, it may not be that spouse can meet that expectation. Either they can at all, or they don't know how, or they don't want to. So it's going to be important to give that to the Lord, and they may have to do that repeatedly. I remember one woman she was so upset with her mother because of the way her mother raised her. And still, she doesn't have a relationship with her mother. And the problem is that she had expectations this mother could not meet. I have a wonderful mother, but she's not like a June Cleaver or a one of those doting mothers that is just going to be nurturing in the ways that maybe a traditional thought would, maybe a traditional type mother would be. And if I had that expectation, I would be miserable. But I have come to love my mother in the way that she mothers. And I couldn't have that appreciation if I had an expectation that didn't fit her personality, that didn't fit her experiences. So I love my mother. One of the things we can do is free people by giving the expectations to God. And probably not saying, oh, I'm putting my expectation on God because you don't meet them. We don't want to do that. But forgiving the person for not meeting the expectation, giving that to God so that you don't have the bitterness and you don't have those wounds. Let God be your expectation. Let him fill every need. And then also allow him to make the changes in the spouse. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't set boundaries. If one person has expectations that are important, that are not being met, we may need as ministers to lead them into expressing what those boundaries might be. But that's going to be under the leading of Holy Spirit, period. There's a lot of healing that can take place in letting the expectations go, or false expectations go, and giving those to God. But prayer is going to be key. Listening to Holy Spirit, and those spouses being willing to allow God to heal. And listen, if you've got people that haven't had their expectations met, they may have some bitterness and unforgiveness. And this is going to be a crucial part of their healing, their freedom, and the restoration of their marriage.